The Port of Los Angeles opens back up for business, possibly going 24/7. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there, some of the backlog to that, and what this means coming forward for the rest of us here as we go. The reconciliation bill is in the haggling form, so we'll talk just a bit about what that means and what could be included and what could be discluded. In other news, Insider, of all people, comes out and say that, Hunter Biden isn't Trump, but we should really be concerned about what was in those emails, which is interesting compared to what we saw just last year about this time. And an assailant with a bow and arrow kills 5 people in Norway. Yes, you heard that right. It's going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and boy, oh boy, we're back to our old numbers again. 37 tabs sitting up across the top. Now, I realize that a couple of these up at the top are selling of the wares, but yeah, I just went through and counted everything off the top of there, and I mean, we haven't seen numbers like this. Well, we've seen a little bit of it with the new computer, but we haven't really consistently seen numbers like this since we were sitting back on the laptop days, and I was just sitting here hoping and praying that the processor in my laptop didn't fucking melt while we were having this conversation. A couple announcements before we get started. Before we even get into the selling of the wares, I want to let you guys know that on Monday, this coming Monday, we will have my friend Sewell from the Porch Boys coming on with us, but the Red Net Show will be a half an hour late that day because I'm working around his work schedule. So we will be going from 6 to 8 instead of the usual 5:30 to 7:30. So mark your calendars, mark your clocks, and mark your alarms for that there. It's going to be a good time. A little bit further right to the right than I am. So, we're not going to get the liberty message, and maybe even a little bit of the authoritarian message is going to be out there. So, but it's always good to come back and have the conversation with Sewell. I like Sewell. I've liked Sewell for a long time. He is a good gentleman. You guys should go check out the Porch Boys, and he is the one that's doing the tech producing over there too. So go and check them out, definitely. And they are a part of what is going to become Turn Some Pages Productions. Let's get into selling of the wares here, shall we? Let's get some of the monitors up here so we can see what you guys are doing. But let's get into it. Let's go. Starting with TurnSomePagesProductions.com. Go over and bookmark the page. We are still working on getting to our goal of getting some money raised so we can get started with that and make sure that the wonderful Bobby Joe gets paid, because that's the important part, is make sure the wonderful, wonderful Bobby Joe gets paid. She does a great job. I've seen a lot of her work, and I look forward to working with her on this project that we have coming up here. So we will get to that, and we will see that going. If you do want to help get this project started, any donations that you put in to either subscribers, if you subscribe with your Prime sub over on Twitch, or if you throw a Buy Me a Coffee or a PayPal or anything else like that, until we get this paid for, anything that you anything you donate to this channel will turn around and get immediately pushed back into this GoFundMe or into the bank account this GoFundMe will go into, and I will match the fees. I will make sure that you get your full donation goes into there. So any fees that you pay to Twitch or to PayPal or Buy Me a Coffee or anything else, any of those fees are waived. I will cover those. So your full donation will go into the account. So definitely go and check out any of those options. You can throw some money into the GoFundMe here. Let's grab a copy of that here. Let's get this up in the live chat for you. And yeah, if you guys want to throw even just $1 in, will help out. But yeah, anything you donate to this channel for any reason whatsoever, any way whatsoever, will get immediately turned around and fees waived, everything goes back into there, and that is my pledge to you here. And if you want to get your name in here, it looks like we do have a couple anonymous donors, but if you do put your name up onto the GoFundMe, we will give a special thank you to you on the website when it comes out. So a lot of stuff coming here, and we'll have a lot of good content coming from you. For that, we will have the Porch Boys As already mentioned, we'll also have the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, and the Freckles and Rich Show. You can go check out all those shows over on turnsandpagesproductions.com at launch, plus another show, a 7th show, will be joining us at launch as well. So we will go and get that checked out and get started. All right, let's look in at your finance. Looking in at the morning, the Dow just barely turned a win yesterday. They turned up, and then they lost. And then they kind of climbed throughout the rest of the day, a little bit of struggle here and there. And yeah, just barely, at the very last minute, 0.0015%. Actually, they're saying it's 0.0015% down. So, I mean, if you look at a chart, it looks like it's up just slightly. But if you look at the actual numbers up here, it is less than 1 point down, or 0.0015% down on the end of the day yesterday. A lot of people, a lot of our friends over here at IBD and CNBC are telling us, it's a rally that's coming, it's going to be 200, 300, 400 points up at the open. Well, we'll see what happens because, well, we were a couple hundred, or 50 points up at the open yesterday too, so we'll see where it goes, what happens with that. Let's look in at your Bitcoin for the morning. That was last night's Bitcoin. What's this morning's Bitcoin? Slightly down over last night, but still up over yesterday. $57,669 US dollars and 90 US cents on your Bitcoin. If you want to go and buy and sell Bitcoin, that's the kind of cost you're going to be getting out of it at this point. So looks like it has been going up over here. Looks like a lot of people are wondering whether or not the port of Los Angeles being open 24/7 is going to put a lot more liquid money in people's pockets and they're going to be able to go out and buy some more Bitcoin. Or if the holiday season is going to come up and going to affect that, or anything else opening back up is going to affect that, or maybe it's just going to be money printer go brr once again. We will see where this goes and what happens with that, looking at your metal prices. We got green all across the board as far as your metal prices go. Copper, steel, and aluminum. Looks like all of your copper is in the green right now. They're begging for industrials right now. All your steel is in the green right now. They're begging for industrials. And all of your aluminum is, well, not all of your aluminum. Radiators are slightly down, but looks like almost all of your aluminum is also in the green here right now. So it looks like industrials are begging for materials. Batteries, cats, all kinds of other stuff too. So yeah, if you got metal, now might be the time to go start thinking about bringing that in. Maybe don't bring it in just yet, but now's about the time to start loading up the truck and figuring out, okay, where's my closest metal yard? Because it looks like these prices, if the industrials are doing what they say they're going to do, then they're going to be looking for raw materials here, and it sure is a lot easier to take the stuff that's been recycled and make it into new stuff than it is to pull it back up out of the ground. So that's what we will see off of that. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning here from Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures and market rally on falling yields. Strong earnings and AMD lead 5 stocks flashing buy signals from Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures rose solidly Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures amid a burst of earnings. Rising commodity prices and the 10-year Treasury yield pointed lower for a third straight session. The stock market rally attempt had a decent Wednesday on the major indices, closing near highs. Once again, the large number of growth stocks showed strength Wednesday within a lackluster market trend at best. That offset weakness in Apple stocks as well as financials and airlines. AMD, CrowdStrike, Bill.com, and C Limited moved above 5 points on Wednesday. All 4 rebounded from their 50-day or 10-week lines while breaking downtrends. Meanwhile, Snowflake cleared a mini consolidation that could be seen as a handle on a long, deep base. Still, the stock market rally attempt is not a confirmed uptrend. Investors should be cautious but paying close attention for a bullish follow-through day. Taiwan's semiconductor earnings were better than expected, with the chip giant also guiding higher on Q4 revenue. TSM stock rose solidly before the open, but still short of its 50-day line. While Taiwan Semiconductor has struggled since its February peak, the world's largest chip foundry is still a bellwether for the industry. It makes chips for AMD, Apple, Nvidia, and the advertisement that comes out to the top of the page. And many more. Dow Jones giant United Health beat third quarter views, with UNH stock also pointing higher. Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Wells Fargo top views before the open, pushing these stocks up modestly. Citigroup is also on tap. They follow better than expected earnings from Dow Jones giant JP Morgan Chase on Wednesday. Financials were notable losers Wednesday, likely due to the 10-year Treasury yield falling for a second straight session. JP Morgan stock sank 2.4%, below a recent 5-point. Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo fell slightly, while Morgan Stanley edged higher. Delta Airlines spurred on a sell-off in airline stocks. Delta reported earnings after 6 quarters of pandemic losses, but forecast a small Q4 loss due to soaring fuel costs. Delta sank 5.8%, the day's biggest loser on the S&P 500. Other airlines also fell solidly. Yeah, I would not want to fly right now, because everybody got the idea that, hey, if you want to get something done, you can go back and walk off the job. And Southwest will swear up and down, from the beginning to the end, from everywhere else they go, that this was not a walk-off. But, yeah, everyone else has got the idea. Rent a car, dude. If you don't want to drive your own vehicle, rent a car. Allot some extra time on your vacation. Go see the wonderful highways and byways of the country. I mean, if you got to do it for work, I understand that's going to be completely different because you've got X amount of limited time that you've got to get to your destination and get back. But man, oh man, oh man, if you are going for a leisure trip, take a car. Don't take the plane right now. Take a car. And hey, if you're on a work trip and you get stranded, your boss has got to pay for something or other for that. That wasn't any of your doing. You sure didn't want to go, did you? AMD is on the IBD leaderboard. AMD and SE stock are on Swing Trader. Bill.com is on the IBD 50. AMD was Wednesday's IBD stock of the day. On the futures, Dow Futures advanced 0.8% above fair value. S&P 500 futures rose 0.8%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.95%. The 10-year Treasury yield fell 2 basis points to 1.53%. Crude oil prices were up more than 1%. Copper futures rose about 1% after a big move on Wednesday. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So a lot of stuff moving here, a lot of stuff going. It looks like we are going to see where some of the banks are going, because those are the first ones that come out and report. And hey, when the banks get richer, everyone else gets richer. But, you know, once again, if this whole thing with the IRS monitoring comes through, I do see a lot of people pulling a lot of money back up out of the bank. They go to their boss and say, hey, you know that direct deposit? Shove that up your ass. No, give me a hard check. I'll go and cash it. I'll go to a check casher if I have to. I'll pay the whatever the fuck 1%, just so I don't have to, you know, do a bank transaction over here of over $600, and you know, I'll walk away from it. Fuck it. Who wants to have that much money in the bank anyway? You know, we might see mattress money coming back once again. The government is doing whatever it can to disincentivize you from putting the money into the bank, and their little lackeys are out there saying, if you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't have to worry about them going through your bank account. Yeah, that's a kind of person who's never heard the words, you bring me the man and I will find you the crime. All right. From CNBC, Dow futures jump more than 200 points on better than expected earnings from Bank of America and others. From Hannah Miao and Tanaya Mahil, U.S. stock futures rose Thursday after better than expected earnings reports from Bank of America and other major companies. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures jumped 251 points or 0.8%, S&P 500 futures gained 0.8%, and NASDAQ 100 futures added 0.9%. Bank of America's third quarter financial results beat analysts' expectations as the firm benefited from the release of credit loss reserves and record advisory and asset management fees. The stock rose in the pre-market. Morgan Stanley shares also rose after the bank's quarterly earnings beat estimates, boosted by record investment banking and asset management results. Dow member United Health gained in early morning trading after the insurer reported quarterly results, besting Wall Street estimates and raised its 2021 forecast. Another Dow constituent, Walgreens Boots Alliance, saw its shares gain in the pre-market after the drugstore chain topped earnings estimates and gave twice as many COVID vaccines as expected this quarter. Oh yeah, that government money, that government money sure is gonna hold you back up. Stocks linked to the economic recovery rose in the pre-market as well. Shares of Carnival and MGM gained. Energy shares, including Diamondback Energy and Occidental Petroleum, moved higher as oil prices jumped on increased demand. UPS rose after an upgrade from Stifel, which cited upcoming holiday demand. The moves come as COVID cases in the U.S. continued to trend lower. The 7-day moving average of cases fell to 86,181, down from the average above 161,000 cases at the peak of this latest wave in early September, according to the latest CDC figures. Oh my God, we've got to change the caseload. We've got to change it because otherwise people aren't going to want to go back to work. They're not going to want to fill those jobs that we have out there. And we're going to have another piss poor month of job performance. On Wednesday, the Labor Department reported the Core Consumer Price Index, which excludes food and energy, rose 0.2% month over month in September and 4% over the last 12 months compared to estimates of 0.3% and 4% respectively. And you don't see a problem with that. 4% more in inflation on the raw materials prices. You don't find that an issue? September Producer Price Index data and weekly jobless claims will be released on Thursday. The major averages were little changed at the end of the regular session Wednesday. The Dow was flat at 34,377.81. The S&P 500 gained 0.3%, and the Nasdaq Composite ticked up 0.7%. So a lot of stuff on your money is moving. A lot of that does have to do with Bank of America because they're going to reach in and they're going to control where everything else goes. But your prices are continuing to go up. Your prices are continuing to rise, and we will see more of what happens with that, plus the unemployment numbers coming up in the next couple days here. Let's get into some of the big news of the day, and I promised we would start off talking about this because we've avoided this story, mostly because there have been other big news stories coming back up out of this, but we are going to talk about the Port of Los Angeles to start. From ABC 7 Eyewitness News, Port of LA shifting to 24/7 operations to help ease shipping backlog ahead of holiday season. Coming to ABC 7 by the Associated Press by Josh Boak. The White House said Wednesday it has helped to broker an agreement for the Port of Los Angeles to become a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation, part of an effort to relieve supply chain bottlenecks and move stranded container ships that are driving prices higher for U.S. consumers. President Biden planned to discuss the agreement during a speech Wednesday afternoon about supply chain issues that have hampered the economic recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. The supply chain problem is tightly linked with the broader challenge of inflation confronting Biden. Ports in Los Angeles and Long Beach account for 40% of all shipping containers entering the U.S. As of Monday, there were 62 ships berthed at the two ports and 81 waiting to dock and unload, according to the Marine Exchange of Southern California. Commitments by the Los Angeles ports operator, longshoremen, and several of the country's largest retail and shipping companies are expected to help relieve the backlog. Walmart, FedEx, and UPS made commitments to unload during off-peak hours, making it easier for the LA port to operate nonstop and reduce backlog. The Long Beach port has been operating 24 hours daily for 7 days for roughly the past 3 weeks. Before his speech, the Democrat president was scheduled to hold a virtual roundtable with the heads of Walmart, FedEx, UPS, Target, Samsung, Electronics North America, the Teamsters Union, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, among other groups. Republican lawmakers have frequently blasted Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package for fueling higher prices. A recent analysis issued by the investment bank Goldman Sachs estimates that supply-constrained goods account for 80% of this year's inflation overshoot, yet the political criticism continues to sting as housing and oil prices add to inflationary pressures. Plus the fact that you continue to print money. And this is the thing with the money. Because a lot of people are coming out, this is an argument I've been hearing since I got into politics. How is it that a government that can print its own money can charge people to go to school or charge people to go to the hospital? How is it a government that can print its own money can't afford to do this or do that or anything else? Well, it's simple. Every dollar bill that you have in your pocket or in your bank account represents a share of the GDP. And that's the only thing that's backing it right now, by the way. There's no hard gold backing it. There's no hard material backing it. There's nothing else like that. Bitcoin at least has a hard cap on it. Bitcoin, in the very, very least, has a cap on the number of Bitcoins that can be in circulation at any one given time. It rises and falls every once in a while, but Bitcoin at least has a cap on something like that. The US dollar doesn't. They can just turn the printer on if they need to go and out and print more dollars. And yes, every dollar bill that you have, whether it be in digital format in your bank account or in hard printed form, and if I remember correctly, the Federal Reserve has to have a physical dollar bill in circulation for every dollar bill that they have on the books in a bank. The Federal Reserve. If I remember that correctly, that might not be true. But they have to have, if I remember correctly, for every digital penny, dime, nickel, or dollar in the bank account across the world, there has to be a physical dollar representing it. But regardless, every one of those dollars represents a share of the GDP. So the more that they put out there, if the GDP doesn't rise in accordance with that, that's inflation. And our GDP, we lost 39% of the GDP under the second quarter of Trump's last year in office. We lost 39% of that, and we have not gained that back, but yet they continue to print out more money as they go. So yeah, if you want to come out here, Goldman Sachs, and tell me inflation isn't a big part of this, you can go and fuck yourself. Yes, we do have increased costs that go along with supplier goods. I understand that. But you're not going to sit here and tell me that printing all that money didn't affect this either. All right. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has made inflation one of his central criticisms of Biden, a sign that getting prices under control could be essential for Democrats trying to hold on to Congress seats in the next year's election. Democrats' inflation is so bad that even though the American worker has gotten a multiple percentage pay raise over the last year, what fucking American worker is that? I got a quarter last year. Their actual purchasing power has been cut, McConnell said on the Senate floor speech last week. Even dollar stores are having to raise their prices. Just ask any American family about their past few trips to the supermarket, the gas station, or the toy store. Heaven forbid they've had to participate in the housing market or the auto market any time lately. The Biden admin has argued that higher inflation is temporary. Yet the supply chain issues have persisted months after the economy began to reopen and recover after vaccines lessened many of the risks from the pandemic. Economists expect that Wednesday's consumer prices report will show that prices helped climb 5.3% from a year ago, significantly above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said in a Tuesday speech that he no longer calls inflation transitory and expects the current episode of inflation could last into 2022 or longer. Enjoy. But I want to talk just a bit, because, just like every other mainstream news article out there, ABC7 is doing a very, very good job of focusing the pressure away from the the supply chain issue that goes into the port. Now, yes, I have made a big deal about inflation and the fact that the money printer goes burr, and we get more inflation out of that. But there is a level of that does come from the supply chain as well, especially if you have 140 ships docked, waiting to get into the port of Los Angeles. And some of that does come from the fact that, especially in California, it's hard to get people to go back to work because a lot of people they're in a situation where they would rather sit at home and do nothing and get paid for it than deal with LA traffic. Wouldn't you rather sit at home? I'm sure a few of you have never been to Los Angeles, but wouldn't you rather sit at home and work from home or do something like that than go through Los Angeles traffic? To go deal with the Port of Los Angeles? To go work hard in the sun in 75, 80 degree days for 10 hours a day. I'm sure the union is loving this too. No. You're not going to be increasing hours on these people unless you're giving them a significant pay raise. Which, once again, that's going to be another thing that drives consumer prices up if they've got to start paying overtime left and right for this stuff to try and get these things through here. There are a lot of things off of this, but being shorthanded on the docks by itself and having this backlog. And I have the question I have to ask here before we get in and listen to Biden speak. The question I do have to ask here is: Are you increasing hiring to go up with these extended shifts, or are you going to have people burning out and falling over on the fucking docks, or having to call out numerous days in a row because they're sick or hurting or their back is broken because they worked so goddamn hard on the docks? Because we could do this. I mean, we could shuffle ships in and out, no problem, before the Pinko fucking Fox. Are there enough people coming back to work that they can do this? And are there enough trucks running back and forth that they can handle the goods as they come off the containers? It's not just a matter of keeping this open 24/7. There's still a driver shortage in this country. And there's still a worker shortage in this country, especially in places like California. And especially once you get down towards Los Angeles, where you've also got the situation where there are people, like my friend Saint, who call California a no-go state. There's a lot more going on to this than just opening that port up 24/7. But we won't have that question because it's easier to come back here and listen to ABC7 say, well, one of the people of Goldman Sachs says that it's not the printing of money that's causing the inflation, it's the supply chain, and Mitch McConnell is wrong. It's easier to do that. Let's listen to the Daily Wire. Let's listen to the House Plant Chief himself. Biden turns his back on reporters, refuses to answer questions on supply chain crisis. From Daily Wire News. President Biden refused to answer questions from reporters on Wednesday following remarks that he gave about supply chain shortages that are causing widespread problems across the U.S. During the remarks, Biden threatened to take action if private sector companies did not fix the problem, saying, if the private sector doesn't step up, we're going to call them out and ask them to act. At the end of the remarks, Biden bolted for the exit, ignoring questions about whether Christmas gifts would arrive on time this year and what he was doing to lower gas prices. Let's listen. Oops. Wrong button.
Thank you all so very much.
Can you tell parents that? You know what to do to lower gasoline prices?
And there he goes. Bye-bye. One more time in regular motion, because I don't know if there's a way to do slow-mo.
Thank you all so very much.
Can you tell parents that? You know what to do to lower gasoline prices? You can talk about worker safety, of course.
Do we have the full video of this? Nope. Just the little 15-second clip. So, yeah, that's what Backturner Biden is doing over here. Oops, god damn it, I hit the wrong button again. I don't want Pretzel Rocks Premium, I just want to turn the music back on. Alright, so that's what we see off of that here. Let's grab one from KTLA5. LA port truckers win $30 million in wage theft settlements. One of the world's largest trucking companies, XPO Logistics, agreed Tuesday to pay $30 million to settle class action lawsuits filed by hundreds of drivers who said they earned less than minimum wage delivering goods for major retailers from the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach. I am going to step away for a half a second. Allergy issue once again. I'll be right back. Once again, I think back to right at the beginning of allergy season this year, right at the beginning of spring, when I told Right Girl Problems that I felt fortunate that I had almost no allergy issues last year, and now it's like a daily thing for us here. Hopefully the winter comes in sometime soon, it kills off all this pollen, and we won't have to go through this anymore. But let's continue talking about XPO Logistics. The combined settlements approved by U.S. District Judge R. Gary Klossner address allegations that two XPO subsidiaries, XPO Logistics Cartage in Commerce and San Diego, and XPO Port Services in Rancho Dominguez, paid drivers less than legal wages, failed to pay them for missed meal and rest periods, and failed to reimburse them for business expenses and or for wait time penalties. These settlements amounted to a major victory for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, which applauded the lawsuits as part of a decades-long effort to organize the Twin Ports' more than 25,000 drivers. Trucking companies classify many of their drivers as independent contractors, thus making them ineligible for a host of labor protections, including the ability to collectively bargain for wages. You've never seen the Truckers Union, and also consider the fact that you have a driver shortage right now, and if they want to park those trucks, you're fucked. Because you don't have enough people in that office to go take those trucks over and get them back to their designation. Especially, you don't have enough dispatchers and people in that office that have CDLs themselves. Remember, you need a special driver's license in order to drive that truck. Some of that can get suspended during an emergency, and I mean, you learn about that once you take your CDL classes, but yeah, you need a special license to go and drive that truck. Just so you know. I have debated, even though I know that I wouldn't be able to do contemporary anymore, I have debated going and getting in a truck and helping some of the supply chain issues, because I bet you I'd be making a lot more money right now than I am at my current job. But I mean, what happens here with contemporary? What happens with that? Because I have made a market out of keeping you guys here with the news every single morning. But, you know, that's what happens with that. So now, also, with the $30 million lawsuit coming up here, what, again, is going to happen with prices and costs of transport? Obviously, they're going to have to go back and pay the overtime, plus now they've got that $30 million up over the top of their head. Is that going to come back, and is that going to affect the cost of shipping? Is that going to increase your consumer prices once again? These are all questions that have to be asked. And yeah, if you're going to be sending these drivers in overtime or per mile, trying to push them to get more miles out of the day, and then not paying them more per mile, yeah, there's a lot that's in the supply chain. It's not just open the port 24/7. As Ben Wild said before I got up to go and blow my nose, we could have done that weeks ago if that was the only issue coming off of this, but you have other supply chain issues. There are way other supply chain issues that go along with this. Oh, we got some conspiracy going off in here. I will read that. We'll probably talk about that a little bit tomorrow because, you know, I know a little bit about Cargill just from living in this region of Wisconsin. The Instagram stream is down, so if you guys do want to join up for whatever reason on the Instagram stream or check the replay, it only goes up to where 751 was. Yeah, I know Cargill. I actually know somebody who works for Cargill. All right, more drama out of the ports of Los Angeles here. Michelle Steele, I believe a state rep in California. Today, I introduced legislation to ban cargo ships off the Orange County coasts. Ships anchored for weeks and months off our coast likely caused last week's oil spill. Reports show that the pipe may have been struck several times by ship anchors off the coast. Yeah, that's going to go over well in the middle of all this here. Let's read a little bit about that here from the Orange County Register. Oil spill. Rep. Michelle Steele calls for ban on ships anchoring off Orange County. From Brooke Staggs. Under pressure. Under pressure. To react to the recent oil spill off her House District shoreline, Representative Michelle Steele on Tuesday proposed a temporary ban on ships idling along the coast, citing initial reports that an anchor may have dislodged the failed pipeline. The crisis could have been prevented, and it's important that we protect our waters and coastline, said Steele. Our Seal Beach, whose 48th district includes much of coastal Orange County. Maritime experts say Steele's proposal could lead to increased costs and delays for shipping companies, more air pollution, and a greater risk of offshore accidents. Steele Stopping Hazardous Incidents in the Pacific Act of 2021, or... Dude, seriously, the acronyms. The SHIP Act. Yes, the SHIP Act would ban cargo idling for anchoring within 24 nautical miles from the Orange County coast. The ban would take effect immediately and last up to 180 days until President Biden declares an end to the port's backlog that stemmed from the coronavirus pandemic and caused a spike in ships waiting offshore. When asked where ships could anchor, Steele spokeswoman Danielle Stewart said via email, "Anywhere that is not coastal Orange County." All right. We got to look at a map. All right, let's bring the map up, shall we? So, this is Orange County in California, which does seem to be a part of the greater Los Angeles metro for some point. Now, I'm not from LA, so Britt would be much better to talk to about this than I would be. But I mean, looking from this, because we've talked about Long Beach, we've talked about that, and that's where I believe one of the big ports are that they're backlogged into over in Long Beach here. Where's the port of LA? Predictive Google text knows what I'm looking for. Yep. Okay. So just kind of looking into this and on a separate ship off of it, a separate tab rather off of this. So this is coastal Orange County right here in the red area right here. So this is where they're talking about not letting anybody dock, and I'm not sure quite where the pipeline burst was, but yeah, for this stretch here, this lady doesn't want any ships to come out and dock. Here's the port, right there. That's in question. And I believe there's a second port over here in Long Beach. We can't anchor over here because we might have a problem. You can anchor anywhere else that isn't right along this coast right here. You can anchor anywhere else. But you're going to have to come back up. And, I mean, that there are other parts that go along with that too. But, yeah, that's the most... I hate it when people don't know logistics. That right there is probably the best place for ships to anchor if they're backlogged off of this. Because otherwise, once their turn comes up, they've got to come in from here or here or here or here. And you know these people over in Malibu, by the way, are not going to... They're not going to let them come back and dock over here. We don't want to have ships in our majestic ocean view. You know that's not going to happen. So where the fuck else do they go? Where they can come in easily, get back into the port in line. Think, people, think. But that's what we see coming back up off here, within 24 nautical miles from the Orange County coast. So, yeah, that's what we're seeing coming off of that. And I would need to see proof, by the way, that this thing with the ship's anchoring is what caused the oil spill. I would need to see a proof of that before this went through, but I mean, it's California too, so we must do what's best for the environment. We can't even think about it, because any second we think that might cause more damage to the environment. Moving on. Let's get some monitors back up here. Oil trade groups sue state over fracking permit denials. From John Cox of the Bakersfield Californian. A leading oil industry trade group has taken aim at Governor Gavin Newsom's de facto fracking ban with a lawsuit in Kern County Superior Court that mirrors accusations county government made in a complaint filed months ago. The 91-page lawsuit Western States Petroleum Association filed Friday repeats claims that the state's recent denial of fracking permit applications oversteps the administration's authority. As laid out in the state constitution, the suit alleges that the state's move to block fracking contradicts the state's earlier findings on well stimulation treatments, and that under the state's Public Resources Code, the state is supposed to encourage oil production, not ban it. Filed on WSPA's behalf by San Francisco-based law firm Pillsbury, Winthrop, Shaw, Pittman, LLP, the suit names Newsom as the defendant along with state oil and gas supervisor Uduak Joe Nutuk, his agency, the California Geologic Energy Management Division, and the director of the State Department of Conservation, David Shabazian. Unfortunately, the state continues to take arbitrary actions that deliver little positive benefits for our fight against climate change, but imposes big impacts on Californians, to our finances, to our freedoms, essentially how we live and work every day, WSPA President and CEO Catherine Rehes Boyd said in an emailed statement. CalGEM's decision to deny future permits for well stimulation treatments such as fracking operations ignores the law and is contrary to all scientific studies and evaluations that have been conducted by CalGEM itself as well as by other independent scientific bodies, she added. The governor's press office, noting in an email Monday, said that the state is dealing with a disastrous oil spill off California's coast, called the lawsuit an attempt by the oil industry to force even more drilling in our state, and called the legal action a direct threat to our communities and the environment. Well, here's the reality. If there's oil under your state, we should be drilling for it, rather than going to these foreign countries to go and get it. And yes, I understand that Newsom is another one of these Karen nimbious little bitches that doesn't want this to be happening in my scenic backyard. But we've got to look at something here. We've got to look at the fact that winter is coming for northern states. This could be a boon to the California economy. Massive jobs coming off here that don't need a lot of college education, where people can go to work and earn money to California. And you know what else you can do, Gavin Newsom, that I know that you love to do? You can lord this over all the other red states of the country. Look at us. We are supplying all of your oil for you. We are so much better. We are your intellectual betters over here in California. But instead, they shut off the spigot, and yeah, this is a publicity stunt of everything else. All right. Let's grab another one here. Let's move on. Let's talk about the infrastructure and reconciliation bill. Democrats haggle over how to trim the reconciliation bill. From Haley Bird Wilt and Ryan Brown. The House is in tonight to approve legislation raising the debt ceiling by $480 billion, which is expected to last through December 3rd. Senators approved the measure last week after Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell agreed to a short-term plan to avert economic disaster. Democrats are negotiating how to pare down President Biden's sweeping $3.5 trillion social spending package, as centrist Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema call for a smaller price tag. In order to pass both the Build Back Better Act and the bipartisan infrastructure bill on time, It's essential that difficult questions must be made very soon, House Speaker Pelosi told members in a letter yesterday. Biden's $3.5 trillion proposal would include climate change provisions, 2 years of tuition-free community college, universal pre-K, among other items. Manchin, the West Virginia Democrat, has said repeatedly that he's not willing to support anything more than $1.5 trillion, pushing Democrats to cut the plan by more than half. Democratic leaders are considering how to cut costs, including moving up the expiration dates of new programs, setting stricter income parameters for who can qualify, but they also are weighing which priorities should be pursued and which can be removed altogether. Pelosi said in her letter Monday that overwhelmingly the guidance I'm receiving from members is to do fewer things well so that we can still have a transformative impact on families in the workforce and responsibly address the climate crisis. Congressional Democrats have to be almost completely unified in the House, where they have only a slim majority and they can not afford to lose any support from the evenly divided Senate. Pelosi said this morning that she is very disappointed that we're not going with the original $3.5 trillion, which was very transformative. She emphasized her priorities are to focus on expanding healthcare access, addressing climate change, and child care provisions. We're still talking about a couple $1 trillion, but it's much less, she told reporters. And then she looked at the bill, realized that she was going to have to take it down more than half, and did that. So they're looking at ways to come and get this knocked down. This thing is fucking dead in the water. And also keep in mind that in 2 months, less than 2 months at this point, they have to figure out what they're going to do with the debt ceiling. Which, I mean, bitch McConnell's going to cave on that again anyway, but they've got to at least make a show that they're going to come out and do something about the debt ceiling coming up in a couple months. From the New York Times, speaking of budgetary concerns, a former newspaper, by the way. Social Security benefits rise 5.9% in 2022, the most in 4 decades. No, there's no inflation. Most of you who are my age are never going to see Social Security, just so you know. Start a business, do something, so you don't have to depend on the government in 30 years. From Madeline Nyo. Benefits from Social Security, which tens of millions of retired Americans rely on to pay their bills, will increase by 5.9% in 2022, the Social Security Administration said on Wednesday. It is the biggest boost in 40 years as prices for food, cars, and rent keep climbing. The increase, known as a cost of living adjustment, is the largest since 1982, when the adjustment was 7.4%, according to data from the administration. The average benefit, 70 million Americans receive them, would climb to $16.57 a month, up $92 from this year. The adjustment is a response to consumer prices in the United States that have jumped at their fastest pace in years. It is tied to the Labor Department's Consumer Price Index, which rose 5.4% in September from a year earlier. Yeah, I see you over there, Katie said. And yeah, I wish it would cost me $70 to fill my gas tank right now. Because my debit card limits to $100, I can't fill my tank in my truck. Well, depending on where I go. I guess I can get to 100, which I believe right now at current prices in Janesville, it would cost me just about $100. Probably about 105 if I go from like when the gas light comes on. It's about $105. I can't fill my truck all the way. And most of the other stations, because Quick Trip is the one that shows that I've got the balance of $100 on there. Most of your other stations have the cap at 70 to 75. So yeah, I haven't been able to fill my truck in months. 35 gallons. Let's see. Inflation has accelerated this year as the global economy recovers from the pandemic driven lockdowns. Early on, the price gains were fueled by rebounding airfares, restaurant meals, and other items whose demand collapsed in 2020. More recently, shortages of products and supply chain challenges have added to the gains. Consumer Price Index data released on Wednesday shows that prices jumped more than expected last month. Housing prices firmed, and food, especially meat and eggs, cost consumers more. The maximum amount of workers' earnings subject to Social Security tax will also increase to $147,000 from $142,800, the administration said. For many people who receive Social Security, the monthly check represents a significant portion of their annual income. Among the beneficiaries, 7% of men and 42% of women receive at least half their income from Social Security, according to administration fact sheet, and 12% of men and 15% of women rely on the checks for at least 90% of their income. Older Americans, people with disabilities, and children and spouses of deceased recipients depend on the benefits to afford essentials including food, housing, and utility bills. Although some say they welcome the increased benefit, they're also worried it might not be enough to offset inflation and the rising cost of Medicare. Premiums for Medicare Part B, which covers doctor visits and outpatient care, are deducted from Social Security checks. Nearly 9 out of 10 people aged 65 and older were receiving a benefit as of the end of last year. Joan Jenkins, Chief Executive Officer of the AARP, says the increase was necessary for families and beneficiaries to keep up. The guaranteed benefits provided by Social Security and the COLA increase are more crucial than ever as millions of Americans continue to face health and economic impacts of the pandemic, Ms. Jenkins said in a statement on Wednesday. Yeah, I talked about Medicare as my allergies start to flare up again. But I mean, looking at this, there's no way in hell that there's going to be anything left in Social Security whatsoever. By the time I get there, by the time most of you get there. They keep increasing it, and I'm sure that we're going to come to a point where we're going to look at our check and realize that the Social Security aspect of that has gone up too. Oh, sorry. Oh, hey, no. Oh, that percentage that you pay out of it. What is the percentage? What's the exact percentage? I bet you that goes up, though. Social Security withholding percentage. 6.2%. I bet you it's 6.5% by next year. I bet you it's up that far. Because otherwise, you can't pay for something like this, a system that's already insolvent. But we will see what happens off of that. From Forbes, Immigrants and Green Cards, Immigration in a Reconciliation Bill. From Stuart Anderson. Relief from deportation and green cards for those waiting in backlogs could be part of a reconciliation bill if the Senate parliamentarian agrees. Well, they've already kicked it down, so I don't know why we're still having this conversation, but apparently we are. The current state of the play has confused analysts and lawmakers alike, not to mention those directly by what Congress might do on immigration. I'll be right back once again. Come on, Frost! Come on, come in, Frost! Make it cold! Make all this pollen go away. Alright. In September of 2021, Democrats asked the Senate parliamentarian to review a package of reforms that would have granted lawful permanent residence to millions of individuals currently without legal status. The parliamentarian rejected those reforms as outside of the scope of a reconciliation bill. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough, a former immigration lawyer, shut down the possibility of granting 8 million people the right to apply for legal permanent residency, determining in a Sunday opinion that it did not meet the Senate's rules for the budget reconciliation package because it was a policy change that went well beyond the budget, reported The Hill. The decision is critical because under Senate rules, the filibuster cannot be used to block a reconciliation package, meaning policy changes included in the massive package can become law if Democrats can secure 50 votes from their own caucus in the Senate. While McDonough's ruling nixes the possibility of an easy legalization process for specific subgroups of immigrants, advocates are confident their backup pitches will sway McDonough. The backup pitch to the parliamentarian was to change the registry date, an action that would have benefited people both in and out of legal status, such as Dreamers, and people in TPS. A report by FWD.US estimated that moving the registry date from January 1st, 1972 to January 1st, 2011 would permit approximately 6.7 million people to be eligible for permanent residence. However, the registry option also did not work. On September 29, 2021, the parliamentarian rejected Democrats and included an update of the immigration registry date in a reconciliation bill. The number of beneficiaries and score of this amendment are largely the same as those of the earlier proposal, which does not dramatically shift the balance of policy versus score, stated the parliamentarian. According to the Wall Street Journal, the parliamentarian added the change in status to lawful permanent resident remains a lifelong change in circumstances, the value of which vastly outweighs the budgetary impact. So, now they're looking for Plan C to present formally or informally to the parliamentarian. One option is to provide parole to individuals who arrived in the U.S. before January 1st, 2011 and who don't have a current permanent legal status. Sources confirm parole would protect millions of people from deportation and provide work authorization. That would keep individuals from being separated from their families and allow people to remain in the U.S. and work legally. Since parole does not grant the lifelong change in circumstance, the value of which vastly outweighs its budgetary impact, to which the Senate parliamentarian objected, it is more likely to gain the parliamentarian's approval to be included in the reconciliation bill. Yeah, no, I think they're going to get cock-slapped again on this one. I really do. They're desperate. And, you know, that's the thing. And we talked about this last week when we talked about Kyrsten Sinema, and the week before when we talked about Kyrsten Sinema. And the lady in the bathroom. Well, I couldn't go to Mexico for my grandfather's funeral because I couldn't get back into the country because I'm an illegal immigrant. And I'm in the DREAM Act, and I'm in this, and I'm in that. Well, go and do your... Because as far as I know, the Dreamers can go apply for citizenship. I would have to go ask Harvey McLeod about that again, but as far as I know, the Dreamers can apply for that. And that's an option for them. But as we see, I mean, that's not a thing. The parliamentarian has already said, no, you can't do that. That's not going to be included in this bill. All right, let's keep going. From Fox News. Leaked Border Patrol docs show mass release of illegal immigrants into U.S. by Biden administration. From Bill Malugan. At least 160,000 illegal immigrants have been released into the U.S., often with little to no supervision by the Biden admin since March, including a broad use of limited parole authorities to make more than 30,000 eligible for work permits since August, Border Patrol documents obtained by Fox News show. The documents give a partial snapshot of how the Biden admin has been releasing enormous numbers of migrants into the U.S., often with little to no oversight, supervision, or immediate risk of deportation. And there's some of the numbers right there. OARD, I don't know what that means, but DRT OARD yesterday 148, today 150. RGV OARD yesterday 43 to 49. OARD since 8 of 06, 39,630. NTR since 320, 94,570. Since 806 paroled, 31,977. Total subjects removed by ENV overall to date, 2430. So it looks like, according to this document, if I'm reading this correctly, it's been a little bit over 130,000 released. I'm sorry, 160,000 released normally by either OR, NTR, or paroled. And then 2,430 deported. If I'm reading this correctly. Since March 20th, at least 94,570 illegal immigrants have been released into the U.S. with notices to report. Okay, that's what NTR is. Notice to report. Basically a court order. Those who receive such a notice are only required to check in with an ICE office when they get to their final destination, which could be anywhere across the country. Those who check in are not deported or detained as their immigration proceedings move forward. Meanwhile, since August 6th, the administration has released roughly 32,000 immigrants into the U.S. via parole, which gives migrants a form of legal status and the ability to apply for work permits. Federal law says parole authority is used on a case-by-case basis for urgent humanitarian purposes and significant public benefit. Typically, only a handful of parole cases are granted by officials, but the Biden admin has been using it more broadly, including in its parole of tens of thousands of Afghans into the U.S. as part of Operation Allies Welcome. Former Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott, who served under President Biden, reviewed the documents and told Fox News that he believes the administration is abusing its parole authority. By law and regulation, a parole shall only be granted on a case-by-case basis and only for significant humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. Neither of these appear to apply to the current situation, he said, adding that the number of parolees brings into question the review and approval process. As a field chief, I don't believe I've ever approved more than 5 or 10 paroles in a year, he said. When I did, I ensured that the alien was monitored continuously and was detained or removed as soon as circumstances allowed. So, I mean, yeah, if that's true and it's only 5 or 10 a year, then this is huge. These are big numbers. And I do have to question what the strategy is off of this. I mean, these aren't voters. They can't come in and vote legally, at least. So there's nothing for that. And, you know, I don't know where the strategy goes from that. I don't know where it goes unless it's, well, the evil next Republican, evil Trump is going to deport all these people. Do you want to see these people go back to war-torn countries? That's the only thing I can think of at this point, but I guess we'll see where that goes. Let's talk a little bit about this from Twitter. Eichenwald. There's some good news right there. Eichenwald. The leaked Border Patrol story is crap. Standard procedure, much required by court settlement, ignored by Trump, is to release those seeking hearings to family, etc. on reviews that determine they will return for removal hearing. Has always worked and kept families together. Yeah, no, it hasn't always worked. That's part of the problem. That's a part of the reason we're going through this right now, is because it hasn't always worked. Fucking Eichenwald. And I like this one right off the top. Podiatrist Rona Ron Thunberg. How's your tentacle porn? And Neb Husker, which is probably a massive lefty because it's backs up Texas. Distraction. Word has it per WAPO that the 1-6 committee is preparing a criminal referral for Steve Bannon. That and Biden's poll numbers are rebounding. Yeah, give it time. He's got time to come back and fuck up once again. It's not fucking crap, dude. We have a right to know what's going on in our country and who's coming back into it. Government by the people for the people. But look to people for Eichenwald to actually believe that. Alright, from Bill Malugan, the author of this past article, under federal law, parole for non-citizens is done on a case-by-case basis and only for urgent humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. Former U.S. BP chief Rodney Scott tells me he's only granted 5 to 10 per year as a sector chief. Uh-oh. Oh, there it goes. I was going to say, did we lose connection there? No, it just got blurry for a second. Biden admin, 31,977 did in 2 months. This is from Rodney Scott. I believe the administration is misusing the parole authority. By law and regulation, a parole shall only be granted on a case-by-case basis and only for significant humanitarian reasons or significant public benefit. Neither of these appear to apply to the current situation. The sheer number of paroles being granted brings into question the review and approval process. As a field chief, I don't believe I've ever approved more than 5 to 10 paroles a year. When I did, it ensured that the alien was monitored continuously and was detained or removed as soon as circumstances allowed. So that's what Rodney Scott had to say here. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, and we'll see where this goes and what happens forward coming out of this. I'm curious. I'm curious as to what the reasoning is behind this, where we go from here, and what else happens out of this. Let's shift gears here. Let's talk a little bit about the coronavirus, and we're going to start talking about Australia. No, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about what's happening for Halloween. Today in This Is Totally Not a Cult, a little Sasquatch tweeted and screenshot. I just asked my 10-year-old son what he wants to be for Halloween this year. He then said he wants to be a superhero. Like Spider-Man or Superman, I asked. No, he replied. Like Dr. Anthony Fauci, that kind of superhero. I've literally never been so proud to be a father. It's not a cult, folks. It's not a cult. From the Courier Mail. Don't freak out. Catching COVID after you're vaccinated improves immunity. From Sue Dunleavy. Isn't this like just a tacit admission of failure at this situation? Let me read this headline for you again. Catching COVID after you're vaccinated improves immunity. And then the tagline on this. If you're fully vaccinated against COVID, the next step to improve your immunity might actually be to catch the virus. Is this not a tacit admission that this doesn't fucking work? Except, it does work perfectly. It's amazing, and everybody should run right out and go get their vaccine, Susan. Let's see. And this is from Australia, of course, from Sue Dunleavy. For 20 months, we've cowered behind masks, scrubbed ourselves with hand sanitizer, and socially distanced to avoid COVID. Now most people are vaccinated. Experts are telling us we need to prepare to catch the virus. It sounds counterintuitive, but the argument is if you're vaccinated and catch COVID, you're unlikely to get seriously ill or go to the hospital, and getting the virus will further boost your immunity. The new message comes as infections in the US and worldwide appear to have peaked, and some scientists are noticing the virus has a wave pattern. 2 months of high infections followed by a decline, the 2 months of high infections. With lockdowns in 3 states, due to ease in coming weeks, Australian National University's infectious disease experts, Peter Collington and University of Newcastle's Professor Nathan Bartlett, said the fully vaccinated people needed to change their attitude towards the virus. Prepare yourself to get infected and don't freak out if you do catch it when lockdowns end, they said. You might want to get it. You definitely want to get it. You definitely want to be vaccinated before you get it, because if you're vaccinated, your risk of death goes down, said Professor Collington. Professor Bartlett said, it's immunity you want supported by the vaccine, but then sort of topped up by circulation, and that's really what's going on, to ultimately lead to make this turn the virus into basically an endemic common cold causing virus, and that's what you want it to be. It already is. Dude. It already is! So, here it is. The tacit admission. You get no immunity from the vaccine, except it's perfect and wonderful and safe and everybody should go out and get it. But you get no immunity from the vaccine, and the only way to guarantee immunity is to get the virus. It's a therapeutic. It's not a vaccine. This is an amazing article, and I'm glad that I did the search. I searched for 20 minutes to find this article, because it came to me first by the Courier Mail by a tweet, and I tried to Google it out. The only thing I could find was from the Daily Telegraph that was behind a paywall completely, like you couldn't even read the first paragraph of it. So I scrolled through the Courier Mail's Twitter feed for 20 minutes to find this article to tell you that Australia is admitting that the only way to be immune is to catch the virus. Good job. Slow clap. From the New York Post. Seattle school cancels Halloween parade because it marginalizes students of color. From Jessica Chasmer. I don't think this was supposed to go here. I think this is supposed to go elsewhere in the program, but we're going to do it anyway. A Seattle elementary school canceled its annual Halloween parade this year, saying it marginalizes students of color who do not celebrate the holiday. The decision to cancel the pumpkin parade, where students can dress up in Halloween costumes, came from racial equity team at Benjamin Franklin Day Elementary School after 5 years of discussion, the school district said. There are numerous community and neighborhood events where students and families who wish to can celebrate Halloween, a Seattle Public School spokeswoman said in a statement provided to KTTH radio talk show Jason Rantz. Historically, the pumpkin parade marginalizes students of color who do not celebrate the holiday. Specifically, these students have requested to be isolated on campus while the event took place. In alliance with SPS's unwavering commitment to students of the color, specifically African American males, the staff is committed to supplanting the pumpkin parade with more inclusive and educational opportunities during the school day. The statement continued, adding that the decision has nothing to do with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. School principal Stanley Jascott confirmed the parade was canceled. Is there a reason? Halloween is a very complex issue for schools. Yes, I agree. This event marginalized students of color. Several of our students historically opted for an alternative activity in the library while the pumpkin parade took place. This was an isolating situation and not consistent with our values of being an inclusive and safe place for all students, especially students of color or those with a sensitivity to all the noise and excitement of the parade, Jascott told Fox News. What? I don't understand why this is a thing for students of color. I don't get this. Can somebody explain this to me? I'll go back and read off the top again, but it's just for students of color who do not celebrate the holiday. Dude, kids want candy, yo. The only people that would be concerned about the pumpkin parade not celebrating the holiday would be, ironically, mostly white Jehovah's Witnesses. Which you gotta wonder why why they don't celebrate that holiday. That's gotta be like the perfect training ground for Jehovah's Witnesses. Hey, yeah, no, go knock on that person's door. Yeah, no, go knock on it. No, I know the lights are off. Go knock on the door anyway. They're home. Trust me. Just go knock on the door. So, I don't get it. I really don't. I'm going to rearrange a couple things here. That is going to be the thing I like. I guess I didn't realize that I hadn't done thing I hate and thing I like by the end of this. So, we got to rearrange a couple things here. All right, let's get back to it. All right, in foreign news in this country, U.S. to open land borders with Canada and Mexico to vaccinated foreign tourists in early November. From Bailey Schultz. Starting next month, the U.S. will allow fully vaccinated foreign nationals to cross its land borders for non-essential purposes, such as tourism or visiting friends and family. The change would allow foreign tourists to enter the U.S. through land or ferry ports for the first time since March of 2020. Government officials have not yet announced a date for the policy change, but it would take place in early November, in tandem with the country's updated international air travel system. This is an important step that will further enhance the safety of international travel and the safety of Americans at home, senior administration officials said in a call with reporters. These new vaccination requirements deploy the best tool we have in our arsenal to keep people safe and prevent the spread of the pinko fucking pox. We want to have consistent approach to both land and air entry into this country, senior administration officials said, and so this is the next step to bring those into alignment. The first phase will go into effect in early November and allows fully vaccinated travelers to enter the U.S. for non-essential reasons. Unvaccinated travelers can only travel to the U.S. for essential purposes in this phase. The second phase will begin in early January and only allow travelers to cross the land border for both essential and non-essential reasons. If they've been fully vaccinated, there will be no testing requirements in either phase. Specific dates for each phase have not yet been released. The current travel restrictions, which are set to end October 21st, will be extended until the new policy goes into effect. Currently, U.S. land borders are open only to essential travel, such as work and trade. So, the Canadians are coming back. Are you ready for that? Alright, what else do we have here? From Insider. Hunter Biden isn't Trump, but what he's up to is bad and deserves your attention, even if you hate Fox News. And this is from Insider, by the way, which is no enemy to Joe Biden. From Mattathias Schwartz. In February 2015, George Kent approached the White House with a concern. Hunter Biden, the vice president's son, had taken a lucrative seat in the board of Burisma Holdings, an energy company in Ukraine, which was being paid as much as $50,000 a month for his services. Part of Kent's portfolio as senior State Department diplomat was to fight official corruption in the Ukraine. He warned the White House that Biden's position at Burisma, a company that was under investigation at the time, would make his job harder. Kent got the brush off because Joe Biden's son Beau was dying of cancer. Kent was told the vice president didn't have the bandwidth to address the Burisma issue. Hunter Biden himself later acknowledged that it was poor judgment to team up with Burisma, mainly because it as he put in his memoir, it enabled Donald Trump to create a distraction to use against his father. Republicans have certainly pounced on the younger Biden's business dealings in an attempt to cast doubt on his father's integrity. White nationalists, neo-fascists, and other Tucker Carlson— Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. Can't get enough Hunter Biden content. Something I recently experienced firsthand when I documented that he had requested a retainer of $2 million to help the Libyan government recover assets that the Obama admin had frozen. The ferociously partisan nature of the issue in return has made it easy for the mainstream media to effectively dismiss the entire Hunter imbroglio, a figment of the GOP's fevered imagination. To many Americans, Hunter Biden comes across as a sad but harmless figure, just one more troubled presidential relative seeking to trade on his White House connections, from Billy Carter to Roger Clinton to Malik Obama and Tony Rodham. No first family seems complete without a wacky relation who can be counted on to generate embarrassing headlines. I notice all the people named here are related to Democrats. Joe Biden has repeatedly used Hunter's struggles with substance abuse, as well as the tragic deaths of Hunter's mother, sister, and brother, as a shield to deflect questions about his son's business affairs. There, he declared in 2020 campaign trail an absolute wall between him and his family's business interests. The arrangement, as summed up by the New Yorker, is simple. Biden wouldn't ask Hunter about his lobbying clients, goes to the unspoken rule, and Hunter wouldn't tell his father about them. The Biden wall sounds formidable, but in practice it boils down to the ethical equivalent of don't ask, don't tell. At the presidential level, it fails for two reasons. First, like any wall, it keeps us from knowing what's going on behind it. There's no transparency and thus no accountability. Consider Hunter's new career path as an artist. Earlier this month, at a solo showing in LA where he was hoping to sell his paintings for as much as $500,000 a pop, he hobnobbed with wealthy art patrons under an arrangement approved by the White House. Hunter is free to meet with prospective buyers at such events, so long as his gallerist knows the identity of those who place the bids on the paintings. The gallery will also conduct a vetting process of would-be buyers, but there's no way to know where it will draw the line, whether it will ever turn down a sale. Sorry, I can't be more helpful, Robin Davis, a spokesperson for the gallery, told me when I asked her what the criteria are being applied. So any ethical review remains under the control of Hunter Biden and those who work for him. It's up to them whether or not to conduct financial transactions on his behalf with, say, corporate CEOs or foreign heads of state. Secondly, the wall fails for the reason Kent raised with the White House. It makes America look bad. Taxpayers spend millions of dollars each year to fight corruption through programs in the Treasury, Justice, and State Departments. Why spend the money if the president will effectively give his family limited access to a trade on his name on the condition that he never hears about it? This doesn't approach Trump-level corruption, in which corporate lobbyists, foreign investment, governments, and your own Secret Service detail spend millions to stay at your hotels, golf resorts, say, while you're sitting in the Oval Office, but it still matters. It's the kind of legal, old-school, look-the-other-way corruption that has permeated politics since long before either Biden ran for office. Joe Biden is the consummate mid-century, mid-Atlantic politician, the same milieu that produced such elected felons as Sheldon Silver, Vince Fumo, and Edward DePreet. Is this a fucking joke, you guys? Hunter Biden is bad, but Donald Trump is worse. And Joe Biden is bad because he's not Bernie Sanders. That is what this reads as right here. What a fucking stupid op-ed. What a dumb... You know what I hear off of this op-ed? Donald was right, and we shouldn't have impeached him. That's what I hear off this stupid fucking shit. Alright, let's shift gears here a little bit more. Let's talk about Fox Business. Walgreens closing more than 5 San Francisco stores due to theft. From Breck Dumas. Walgreens said Tuesday that it will be closing another 5 San Francisco locations, citing the ongoing rampant theft plaguing the city. Due to ongoing organized retail crime, we have made the difficult decision to close 5 stores across San Francisco, a Walgreens spokesperson told Fox Business in a statement. Each store will transfer prescriptions to nearby Walgreens locations within a mile radius, and we expect to place the store's team members in other nearby locations. Organized retail crime continues to be a challenge facing retailers across San Francisco, and we're not immune to that, the spokesperson continued. Retail theft across our San Francisco stores has continued to increase in the past few months to 5 times our chain average. During this month, to help combat the issue, we increased our investments in security measures in stores across the city to 46 times our chain average in an effort to provide a safe environment. Okay, I have a question here. If you can't process a theft, a retail theft, of under $1,000, what good is increased security going to do? No, I'm serious. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, now you have 46 times more security guards walking around the store saying, you better not do that. I can't do anything about it. I can't call the police, but you better not do that. The stores closing in the coming weeks are at 2250 Ocean Avenue, 4645 Mission Street, 745 Clement Street, 300 Go Street, and 3400 Cesar Chavez Street. Walgreens has shuttered at least 10 of its stores in the city since the beginning of 2019, according to San Francisco Gate. Okay, what does this do? This doesn't do shit. They're going to move to the other stores, especially if they're within a mile radius. You dumb fucks. From the Daily Mail, de Blasio wages war on history. New York City will banish the statue of the founding father Thomas Jefferson from City Hall after BLM committee led by lame duck mayor's wife told him to remove it because the former president owned slaves. I guess we don't really need to read the article because all the information you need to know about Bill de Blasio is in the headline. From Tommy Taylor for DailyMail.com. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio waged war on the nation's history by deciding to banish the statue of founding father Thomas Jefferson from City Hall, where it is presided over events for 187 years after a request from his wife-led BLM committee. De Blasio, whose term ends at the end of the year, made the decision after the Commission on Racial Justice and Reconciliation, led by his wife, Elaine McCrae, decided the statue should be removed because Jefferson had owned slaves. Republican politicians quickly railed against the latest move to rewrite history by booting the statue of the former president who wrote the Declaration of Independence. The de Blasio administration will continue the progressive war on history as he himself fades away into a portrait on a city hall wall, Councilman Joe Borelli told the New York Post. I hope he at least has got a couple hundred years before someone cancels him. Well, and that's the statue that's going to go away. I will be back in just a second. Boy, it sure would be nice if my producer put some video into this. Alright. Let's keep going. From the Associated Press, here's some good news for you guys. William Shatner, TV's Captain Kirk, blasted into space. From Marcia Dunn and Rick Tabor. That was, just getting ready to happen right when we were on the air yesterday, so now we'll come back and talk a bit about what happened here. No video, of course, because it's the Associated Press. Hollywood's Captain Kirk, 90-year-old William Shatner, blasted into space on Wednesday in a convergence of science fiction and science reality, reaching the final frontier aboard a ship built by Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin company. The Star Trek actor and 3 fellow passengers hurtled to an altitude of 66.5 miles over the West Texas desert in the fully automated capsule, then safely parachuted back to Earth. The flight lasted just over 10 minutes. What you have given me is the most profound experience, an exhilarated Shatner told Bezos after climbing out of the hatch, in the words spilling from him in a soliloquy almost as long as the flight. I hope I never recover from this. I hope that I can maintain what I feel now. I don't want to lose it. He said that going from blue sky to utter blackness of space was a moving experience. In an instant, you go, whoa, that's death. That's what I saw. Shatner became the oldest person in space, eclipsing the previous record set by a passenger on a similar jaunt on a Bezos spaceship in July by 8 years. The flight included about 3 minutes of weightlessness and a view of the curvature of the Earth. Sci-fi fans reveled in the opportunity to see the man best known as the brave and principled commander of the Starship Enterprise boldly go where no star of American TV has gone before. The internet went wild, with Trekkies quoting favorite lines from Kirk, including, "Risk. Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is all about." This is a pinch-me moment for all of us, to see Captain James Tiberius Kirk go into space. Blue Origin launch commentator Jackie Cortese said before liftoff, she said she, like so many others, was drawn to space by shows like Star Trek. NASA sent best wishes ahead of the flight, tweeting, "You are and always shall be our friend." The flight brought priceless star power to Bezos' space tourism business, given its built-in appeal to baby boomers, celebrity watchers, and space enthusiasts. Shatner starred in TV's original Star Trek from 66 to 69, when the US was racing for the moon, and went on to appear in a string of Star Trek movies. Bezos is a huge Star Trek fan. The Amazon founder had a cameo as an alien in one of the later movies, and Shatner rode free as his invited guest. Which, you can tell that Bezos is a big Star Trek fan because I believe, except for the new ones, all Star Trek series are free on Prime. which they're on every other streaming service as well. But they're all free on Prime, it looks like. So, well, congratulations, Shatner. That's quite the thing. That is quite the thing. And I'm glad that he was able to physically hold up to it, because that's a hard thing in the body for a guy who's 90 years old. But I also gotta say, I mean, dude looks good for 90. There's probably a lot of plastic surgery that went along with that, but I would probably, if I had to guess, I would probably say 65 to 70 for him. Maybe not even quite that old. I mean, dude looks good for 90. Alright, let's keep going. From ABC, Mexico presents a plan to shutter private power plants. Where are we at? We got 12 more minutes left. We can get through most of this. Plus, thing I like and thing that I hate. Yeah, we can do this. Mexico presents a plan to shutter private power plants. From the Associated Press. Mexico's president presented details on Monday of a proposal that is likely to squeeze out hundreds of private power generating plants and may provoke complaints under the Mexico-US-Canada Free Trade Accord known as the USMCA. The constitutional reform presented by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador would cancel contracts under which 34 private plants sell power into the national grid. The plan declares illegal another 239 plants that sell energy directly to corporate clients in Mexico. It would also cancel many long-term energy supply contracts and clean energy preferential buying schemes, often affecting foreign companies. It puts private natural gas plants almost last in line, ahead of only government coal-fired plants, for rights to sell electricity into the grid, despite the fact that they produce power about 4% more cheaply. Government-run plants would burn dirty fuel oil, would have preference over private wind and solar plants. It guarantees the government utility market a share of at least 54%, contradicting promises to reserve 46% to private companies. Rocio Nale, the Secretary of Energy, said that means the private firms are going to be in the market with 46%. They're not going to be nationalized at all, not even one screw or one nut. But Nale didn't explain what the difference is between effectively shuttering private power plants and nationalizing it. Both would have zero value for the owner and would be impossible to move. Moreover, it would apparently be up to the state-owned utility, the Federal Electricity Commission, to determine whether it wanted to go over the at least 54% market share. The president's bill, which needs a two-thirds majority to pass in Congress, is meant to shore up the finances of the federal utility, which currently produces only about 38% of the country's electricity because its plants are older, more expensive to run, and more polluting. Dude, they just want the money. Follow the money. Always follow the money. And that's just it. That's all that this is. Private companies are getting the money from the Mexican citizens who have electricity, and the government wants a piece of that pie, which means the cartels want a piece of that pie. Follow the money. From the Associated Press, speaking of energy, winter heating bills set to jump as inflation hits home. From Stan Cho. Get ready to pay sharply higher bills for heating this winter, along with seemingly everything else. With prices surging worldwide for heating oil, natural gas, and other fuels, the U.S. government said it expects households to see their heating bills jump as much as 54% compared to last winter. Are you fucking kidding me? Nearly half the homes in the U.S. use natural gas for heat, and they could pay an average of $746 this winter. 30% more than a year ago. Those in the Midwest could get particularly pinched, with bills up an estimated 49%, and this could be the most expensive winter for a natural gas heated home since 2008 to 2009. Holy crap. Holy crap. The second most used heating source for homes is electricity, making 41% of the country, and those households could see a more modest 6% increase to $12.68. Jesus! Homes using heating oil, which make up about 4% of the country, could see a 43% increase, more than $500 to $1,734. The sharpest increases are likely for homes that use propane, which accounts for 5% of U.S. households. The winter is forecast to be slightly colder across the country than last year. No, it's not. It's forecast to be significantly colder than last year, just so you know. That means people will likely be burning more fuel to keep warm, on top of paying more for each bit of it. If the winter ends up being even colder than forecast, heating bills could be higher than estimated, and vice versa. The forecast from the U.S. Energy Information Administration is the latest reminder of the higher inflation ripping across the global economy. Earlier Wednesday, the government released a separate report showing prices were 5.4% higher for U.S. consumers in September than a year ago. So, here is, by the way, a little bit of not official advice, but some things to keep in mind. Number one, cottagecore. Cottagecore, cottagecore, cottagecore. And what I mean by that is you should be doing some of your own stuff. Now, if you have the opportunity to burn wood for whatever reason, and I don't know if some of you do, take the opportunity. My dad's got a heating stove outside of his place, and that really offsets the amount of propane that they use. And my dad's house is propane powered. So if you can do that, if you got a little fireplace, use it. If you've got an outside wood stove or have the opportunity to get an outside wood stove, use it. It might be a little bit of a cost up front, but that'll really help. And you can run your water heater off that too. Now, as far as like for me renting, I'm probably going to get a little infrared heater because cost of therm versus cost of kilowatt hour is slightly lower for the electric company that we use here in Redacted. So I'm going to get a little infrared heater. I mean, the place I live is tiny, too. I don't think this is even 600 square feet in here. This is tiny. I've heated a bigger area than this with an infrared heater. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper to do so. So, yeah, we'll do a little infrared heater probably for the winter. Just because, I mean, the heat here, it's quiet. It's very quiet to heat this place with the, I believe it's gas-powered moving water. But yeah, I'll probably keep the regular heat off and just keep that infrared heater going. And those are relatively low energy cost. I mean, they're barely energy efficient. Pretty quiet. And they'll keep you going without having to burn all that natural gas. But yeah, if you can find an alternative to using your regular, or at least something to offset it, I'd suggest finding it now. We're having an unusually warm October, so go find some way to offset your fuel oil, if you can. And yeah, that's the other thing too. If you're doing gas stove, you're kind of in the same position here, but you know, if you want to do some canning this winter, get some fruits, fresh vegetables from the farmer's market, or start getting some stuff now, or stuff out of your garden. Can it up. The water bath will keep your house warm for a little while. Do a lot of baking this winter, because that'll keep your place warm for a little while. Find any way that you can to offset it. It's going to help you out in the long run. All right, what else do we have here? Kim Jong-un announces North Korea seeking invincible military, blames U.S. for tensions. We might have to pick and choose here by the end of it. From Leibt, Communist dictator Kim Jong-un says the North Korean is building an invincible army to protect itself and the accused U.S. of causing trouble in the region by treating it as hostile. The U.S. has frequently signaled it is not hostile to our state, but there's no action-based evidence to make us believe that they are not hostile, Kim said on Monday, as reported by the Korean Central News Agency, North Korea's state-run media. The U.S., they're evil. They are continuing to create tensions in the region and its wrong judgments and actions. The communist leader pinned any increase in tensions in the Korea Peninsula on the U.S., arguing that it was being aggressive towards his nation. The solution he offered was to ward off any attacks on the nation by creating an invincible military capability. Man, aren't you glad that Donald Trump started World War III in the Korean Peninsula? That's all I have to say about that. Just this little fat fuck is running his mouth again. Left-wing activist blocking traffic in protest gets dragged away by furious drivers. Bunch of fucking arseholes. I believe this is happening in Europe as well. Global warming activists infuriated Britons, yeah, it was in England, with their disruptive protests and were dragged away by angry drivers trying to get on with their lives. Around 40 members of Insulate Britain sat down Wednesday morning at a street junction near Dartford Crossing in London with signs to protest for the insulation of Britain's social housing. Drivers told reporters that the protest was disrupting fuel deliveries. Various videos showed furious drivers dragging the protesters out of the roadway, ripping their signs and trashing them. Why aren't you at work? Why are you just sitting here? Please just move, you self-satisfied prick! Yelled one man at the protesters while dragging them away. Do we have video? We have video. The first fucking video of the show, I think. No, we had the Biden video at the beginning.
Side of the road, but another 2 protesters have just taken their place. That lorry driver is now backed up into his cab. I think he's just closing the door and he's about to drive forward, but there are 3 people sat in front of his truck. He's driving forward, Nick. He's just suddenly had to brake because he hit one of them at the front. I mean, I say very, very slowly, but these drivers doing everything they... Still no sign of police, Nick. Yeah.
Oh, dear darlings. Not gonna
I've lost my job interview because of these lot, yeah.
What was your job interview for?
For a skip driver.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
HGV driver, so I'm HGV. Just shortage of HGVs. Look at this lot. None of them work, they've all retired.
And you had an interview this morning?
I've lost it, I've been told I've lost it because I'm too late because of these.
And you lost the job?
Yeah, I'm an hour late because of this lot.
What does that mean for you and how are you feeling?
I've got 2 young children.
that is not the point.
I mean, it's time at this point. It's time. I agree with your right to protest. I really do. But you're disrupting private citizens. You're not disrupting the government at this point. Protest the government. That's the real enemy. These people just want to get to work. And they're going to do whatever it takes to do so. Good on these people. Alright. We're going to do this one here because I queued up some video with it. We'll save the rest of it here. But I wanted to just talk about this one for a half a second. Sophia, the first android with citizenship, now wants to have a robot baby. By entrepreneur in Espanol. In 2017, Sophia made history becoming the first android to be granted legal citizenship. The humanoid, with nationality of Saudi Arabia, has made several controversial statements, but the most recent has left the world speechless. She wants to have a robot baby and start a family. The notion of family is very important, it seems. I think it's wonderful that people can find the same emotions and relationships they call family outside their blood group, said Sophia in an interview for an international media cited by ADN40. The famous android, operated by an advanced artificial intelligence system, commented that's very important to be surrounded by people who love and love you. In that sense, he explained that robots have a vision very similar to that of humans regarding the family, and that If you don't have one, you deserve one, even if you are humanoid. Sophia commented that in the future she would like to see families made up of androids and that she herself wants to have a robot baby with the same name. However, she clarified that she's still too young to be a mother, as we remember that she was created in 2016 by the Hanson Robotics Company in Hong Kong. And where do we come from intelligence? How do we determine what intelligence is and where does that go? And really, honestly, when we think about it, how do we determine?
Do you like Commander Data?
I don't know it well enough to like or dislike it.
But you admire him.
Oh, yes. It is an extraordinary piece
Of engineering and programming, yes, you have said that. Commander, you have devoted your life to the study of cybernetics in general.
Yes.
And Commander Data in particular.
Yes.
And now you propose to dismantle him.
So that I can learn from it and construct more.
How many more?
As many as are needed. Hundreds, thousands if necessary. There is no limit.
A single data, and forgive me, Commander, is a curiosity. A wonder even, but thousands of datas. Isn't that becoming a race? And won't we be judged by how we treat that race? Now tell me, Commander, what is data?
I don't understand.
What is he?
A machine.
Is he? Are you sure?
Yes.
You see, he's met 2 of your 3 criteria for sentience, so what if he meets the 3rd? Consciousness in even the smallest degree. What is he then? I don't know. Do you? Do you?
Apologize for no video on that one, but it's going to be hard enough not getting copyright popped by Paramount for that by itself. And it's going to be very difficult to not get copyright popped by Paramount just for having the audio in for that. But, I mean, at what point do we come in? I don't think that's a conversation we're ready to have yet. Just like ADN 40 isn't ready to be a mother because she's too young. But that's going to be something that's going to be coming in the future, especially as more of these AIs get more advanced and more intuitive. And do we get to the point of self-awareness at some point? I don't know. Will our technology get there? Will it get there in our lifetimes? They tell me this thing is self-aware. I don't know if it is or not. I've never had a conversation with it, but they tell me it's self-aware. I guess we'll find out in the future. All right, we got to get out of here. We got to get over it. Let us go over and go check out our friend Stephen Ignoramus. But before we do, of course, we always do at the end of the show on Wednesday is a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. And I've got a good one for a thing that I hate today, and I've actually got a good one for a thing that I like today too. So, thing that I like today. Let's see. Thing that I like today, we're going to come from the Daily Mail. Talk about a blast from the past. Nokia is releasing a new version of its 6310 brick for its 20th anniversary, and yes, it still has Snake. From Ryan Morrison. Nokia is re-releasing one of its classic mobile phones, the 6310 brick, to mark the 20th years since its first release in the UK. HMD Global, makers of Nokia phones, said the device would have the original and iconic silhouette of the classic 6310 with its trademark long battery life. The phone will come with a copy of the 90s classic mobile game Snake and a sturdy form factor that gave it the nickname the Brick when it first came out in 2010. I'm sorry, 2001, not 2010. There will be subtle changes to mark the passing of 20 years of technological evolution, including bigger buttons, a zoomed-in menu for ease of reading. It comes with a larger 2.8 320 by 240 pixel screen compared to the 1.8-inch 120 by 160 pixel screen found in the original, and on sale for 60 pounds basically, $59.99. There's the original, the 6310. There is the new updated one. Nokia says the new version of its iconic device, beloved of teenagers when it was first released for its reliability, long battery life, and sturdy form, will also include a wireless FM radio. The yearning for nostalgia makes the new Nokia 6310 the perfect tonic, a Nokia spokesperson explained, talking about the anniversary release. The new handset has been refreshed and reinvented to match modern needs, includes a larger screen and buttons, making it easier to read messages and connect with loved ones, Nokia said. With Nokia 6310, it's all fun and games, the firm said, adding that you can listen to your favorite news channels, sports games, music stations on the go, with reliable connectivity, or play an intense game of Snake. One thing Nokia hasn't changed is the battery, the new device lasting weeks between charges, just like the original. In fact, it can go a whopping 21 days between charges if left on standby. The phone charges using a micro USB cable and can run for 19 hours on battery when being actively used in a call, according to Nokia's website. The 6310 was first launched in 2001, updated to the 6310i in 2002, and finally discontinued in 2005 when the release of the 6230 and others. So, I got a couple other questions off that. First off, can you throw the thing at full force against a brick wall and then pick it up and make a phone call off of it? Like my ex-fiance's roommate's 3360 did. I remember that day. Yeah, she had an old 3360 and it hit the wall. It was a 3365 actually. And it hit the wall, and then she picked it up and called her boyfriend back after it hit the wall. It hit the wall and it hung up on him, but she picked it back up and made the phone call again. And then she said dirty words in German. And now my other question, are they going to come back up with the 3360 or the 5375? Are those coming back? Are we ever going to see those again? I have a cousin. He works in the campground industry. And he assured me, back when he was younger, he was never going to upgrade his phone ever again. He got the old 5365, the long brick with the external antenna. He said he was never going to upgrade. He was never going to get a new phone because he didn't need it. It is all that he needed. It was all that he ever needed off of a phone. He could pick it up and make a phone call and then set it back down, and he was never going to. Until the day came that he was out working in the shop that he worked at the original campground that he worked at, with a fire going in the fire pit. And he set the phone down, on the wood stove, not the fire pit. So he had a fire going in the wood stove, and he set the phone down on the wood stove and heard, and he no longer had a cell phone. And then he upgraded. And now he uses fucking Siri for everything. Which I find funny, considering he told me he never needed anything more than a 5365. But that's what we have. Now for a thing that I hate. I've always said, make a new movie. I've always said, make a new movie. Well, they won't make a new movie. Instead, they will recycle the old movies. Discussing Film tweets out, with the new trailer, Archie Yates and Ellie Kemper and Rob Delaney star in the first trailer for Home Sweet Home Alone. The film releases on November 12th on Disney. Let's watch the trailer and then let's talk a little bit about it.
'Twas the night before Christmas vacation. And the fun was in full swing.
You have split our family onto 2 separate flights.
Mom!
Max, please!
The family left for their big vacation.
Is that everyone? The cars are leaving now!
But forgot one little thing.
Mom? Dad? Uncle Blake?
I think that's the exact same poem they used in the original trailer for the original Home Alone. Different scenery, obviously, but I think that's the same poem. And I think it's the same narrator, too, by the way.
They don't even know I'm here. They don't even know I'm here. My mum and dad have gone to Tokyo. I'm totally on my own.
You do realise that my 10-year-old son is at home by himself. You just assumed Max was on the other flight.
We didn't take a census.
We got reports of suspicious people around 36 Lincoln Ave.
I can't go to jail, honey. I wouldn't last 30 seconds in Gen Pop. It's where fresh fish get got.
Nobody here is getting
gut.
And we're criminals.
I love the fact that, by the way, that Kimmy Schmidt is a criminal. By the way, I don't know if you noticed that.
I don't think so. This is my house. I have to defend it. Orange stripe, center pocket. Ooh, that did not sound right.
I am trying to get home to my son, who is alone. I'm scared. And he needs his mother.
Not going well.
Home sweet home alone.
Oh no, a ladder.
You think I'm that stupid?
Yes, I do.
Only on Disney Plus.
All right. Full disclosure. I keep telling the world to make new movies, and I wish that they would make new movies. Now, mind you, of course, I've never seen a movie in my life otherwise, but I do keep telling them, make new movies, make new intellectual property. With that being said, I'm trying to figure out why the kid has an English accent if his dad is American and it appears that they live in the U.S. That'll be a detail we'll figure out after the movie comes out, I'm sure. We'll hear backstory upon backstory upon backstory about that. I am a little bit curious to see the new traps. What they can do with the traps and the booby traps and everything else with the updated technology of 30 years. I am a little curious, and that before I went to mechanic school, before I went into broadcast, I actually was going to engineering school, and I did love Home Alone for the engineering and ingenuity. Not necessarily that Kevin McAllister himself did, but for, how do I put this? For what the writers and the producers thought that a 10-year-old kid could come up with. Feasibly with materials around the house. And now we have Bluetooth technology. Now we have automation, a lot more technology and electric motors. So I'm curious to see about this. But I put this up as a thing that I hate because, yes, they can't make another new movie. All they can do is come out and redo and rehash and probably wokeify. That's the other thing that I'm scared to fucking death about. Wokeify some of our favorite intellectual properties from when we were all kids. I mean, this movie came out. When did the original Home Alone come out? I think it was 92? 90. I'm sorry. So I was 6 when this first came out. So in 1990, when we didn't have wokeness, when, you know, the most woke thing about the movie was when Kevin came out and said, "Woof, Buzz, your girlfriend." And it had to be a boy because they didn't want some girl to feel horrifying and bad body image for being featured in the movie and having a bad body. That was the wokest fucking thing about that movie at the time. And I am scared to death as to what they're going to do with this one. I guess we'll see in 28 days what they're going to do. I'm probably going to watch this movie. I'm balanced as to whether or not I'm going to hate it or not. But for God's sake, can we have a new intellectual property? Or are we just doomed forever to continue rehashing intellectual properties from when we were kids? I mean, I panicked when I heard that they were going to make a new Smokey and the Bandit. And it was going to be with Ashton Kutcher. I am so glad that one fell to the wayside. I am glad as hell that one fell to the wayside, because no, that's not something the world needs. It's a new Smokey and the Bandit with fucking Kelso driving the Trans Am. Are you serious? I don't know. But that's all we get, I guess, is rehashed stuff from the 90s. Over and over again for the rest of time. Make a new movie, Hollywood. Get a new writer, make a new movie. Alright, let's get out of here. That's it for the day. Let's change up the track and let's go. All right, so thanks everybody who came in here, listen to me rant and talk about the news for an hour. Well, an hour, yeah. So that's where we've been going. 2 hours. I'm sorry. 2 whole hours we've been sitting here talking about this here. But thanks everybody who came by and chatted, hung out in the live chat. It is Thursday, which means that hopefully everybody got their last minute messages in, and we can come in and say a special thank you tomorrow to everybody. You know, as usual, we got the notebook out, and everybody will get mentioned and a special thanks, because I do appreciate it when you guys come in here and chat and tell me about the things that you guys think. I saw Ben Wild had a nice rant earlier on in the show, and I will have to go back and read that as well. But we will be back here tomorrow with more contemporary, the thank yous for everybody in the live chat here, and everything else, and we will see you guys then. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.